Political parties' participation is so important. If you look at district level elections, the average is 35%. Sometimes it's as low as 25% participation, turnout. People don't come out. The average is 35%. I hear the highest has been 55% in 88, when we started with the district level election. The first district level election, that was when people came out, 55%. That has been the highest. Since then, it's come down, and it's about 35% on the average. But when it comes to political parties' activism and participation, people turn out. The last election was 85% turnout. President and MPs, it's 85% turnout. And you know why? The political parties play a role in bringing people out. There's that activity, that's mobilization. So even though political parties have disadvantages, they also promote people's participation. They promote development. So they play a role in pushing development in our communities. So there are advantages. And as my deputy said, it has been the tested system throughout the world. It has been the tested system, and it's working. And if you think it's good for the center, why shouldn't it be at the local level? Those of us from villages, we also want our villages to come up, to develop. It's not only at the center. People should be able to hold their staff, their leaders responsible, and they should provide accountable and responsible leadership at the local level. The point was also made that they don't see our parties campaigning. I think they will come up eventually. And it's not only, in fact, one of the reasons NDC raised, the minority side raised in Parliament was that they want to see MMDCs elected on partisan basis. And if MMDCs are elected on partisan basis, we should ensure that the referendum is carried. And we're saying that, yes, the referendum, we need you to campaign. We need all PPP to campaign. We need CPP to campaign. We need NDC to campaign. So the referendum is not just based on government. It's based on all of us. If we all put our hands on the deck, we should be able to get over 70% turnout. If we are serious, last year was 85%. If we are serious, we should be able to get 70% turnout. And the Constitution just requires 40. So we should be able to work together and get that 40% turnout. I met with the MPP National Executive Committee. In fact, the president was there and I was invited. I talked to them like I'm explaining to you, talk to them. But everybody needs sensitization and on the matter.
And that's Haji Ali Mahama, the Minister for Local Government and Rural Development. But we also do know that this has generated a lot more discussion. Over the weekend also, there was a broader discussion on the subject on News File, hosted by Samson, Lade and Nyanene. And following that, he had earlier put together as his take an opinion on the subject. And subsequently, we've had many other inferences made. We've had Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh also making a submission not only on his Facebook platform, but also having Justice Sremsai also making various opinions on the subject. But what do you think? Today, we're letting you in on the conversation, and I'm sure that at some point in time in the discussion, we'll open the phone lines. You'll also get to give us your thoughts on the subject. But to let you in on social media, we have a question we posed on the 15th, just before the beginning of the weekend. Make sure you go onto Facebook, JoyNews on TV, get to answer the question for us. I have... well, in the studio, Sampi Yalley. Sampi Yalley is a former Ghana High Commissioner to India. He's right here. He's also a legal practitioner, and so it puts matters into perspective. Thank you for joining me, Sampi Yalley. And then also Dr. Kwame Asasante is a senior lecturer with the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana. Dr. Asasante, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
In the course of the conversation, Dr. Kojo Asante, Director of Policy Research, the Center for Democratic Development Ghana, CDD Ghana, will be joining us. And when we have him, he would also enrich our discussions further. as we broaden the scope. But let me start with you. And I'm starting with you because from your work, not only as a researcher, independently as a consultant, but also as a senior lecturer, you may have known that referendums are normal ways by which we use as plebiscite to be able to make a certain opinion, get to have the opinion also of a certain group in our population going forward. But particularly on this, it looks like we have been divided, or we're getting to the boundaries of division on the subject of a yes or no. What's your own observation on all that you've picked up so far in this debate?
It's very normal for people to have different views with regard to issue of referendum. It's very normal. That's why you always have yes and no votes. So that's normal. But the issue we are talking about is where the difference lies. If you look at what we are talking about, we want to elect DCs, municipal chief executives, and assembly members as well. And the conversation is that some people believe that, hey, you are bringing the problem of national politics to that of the grassroots. For me, I differ, and differ strongly. Because is it the case that we are not interested in what happens at the top? If that is the case, then we want to ask ourselves, what effort have we made to deal with that problem that we see at the national level, that we don't want to transfer it to the grassroots? Yes. Over the years, we realize that, yes, elections are always, acrimonious. Sometimes it can degenerate into things that we don't want. But, hey, take it or leave it. That is one of the canons that we can use to measure democracy. That if you want to lead us, you want leaders in democracy, we should have a hand in the selection of the leaders. At the national level, this country has agreed that we go through the process using political parties as the vehicle. Why is it that we want to shy away at the grassroots? And that is where I don't get the conversation. Because I believe strongly that what is at the top, right, that gives the citizen. Remember, power in democracy, the people are the basis of authority. And at the level, the national level, you are allowing them to select their leaders. And when we come to the grassroots, you're saying that, no, that is not good enough. That I have a difficulty. We believe strongly that much as we want to maintain this democracy and all its fine tenets, we should do well to also replicate at the grassroots level. If there is a problem, we must be able to put in a program to deal with that problem head on. And that is not to say that what we want to do at the local level is not the best. For me, I differ.
And let me say, Yalley, if we have to trace the structure of the local governance system we have, then we go to prior to coming into being. Subsequently, 87, 88, the Consultative Assembly also have given us an impetus to be able to have the foundation we have today. Why do you think the framers of the Constitution decided to keep it the way they did, based on your practice over the period?
Thank you. I think that I must put it out that I am saying what I'm going to say because I have lived it. I was a member of the Consultative Assembly. I was an assembly member and also became a municipal chief executive. So I've lived this with this local government arrangement. And at the Consultative Assembly, the underlying principle was that we should be able to marry our traditional system of governance with the overarching democracy that we are practicing. And therefore, we should have an arrangement by which the people in the community themselves select their leaders. Doc was referring to the opportunity of our leaders. It is not that at the assembly level, they just pick people, but the whole community decide that between the lawyer and the, the liberal serves our interests better than the lawyer. And there have been instances in this country where conservative liberals and others have defeated otherwise lawyers and academics in this country.
In national elections?
No, at the District Assembly elections. Now, again, the reasons why we decided that we should not bring this politics down to the grassroots was that now, if you live in a village and everybody living in the community as I speak today, the assembly member is their first call person. If anything happens, call the assemblyman. And the assemblyman serves everybody, even though we have clandestinely introduced partisan politics behind the scene, but the assemblyman is able to galvanize people more effectively than a member of parliament. Let me give you my classical example of how the Dansuman, you know Dansuman, how Dansuman was developed. Dansuman. I was elected as assembly member. At that time, Dansuman was around the roundabout, just that. There was no schools. But then, Mrs. Last will come to me as an assembly member at dawn. Mrs. Sokai, look, take us to Housing Corporation. And if you go, most of the letters I signed. As an assemblyman, I go there, and then I'm serving them because they elected me.
Which year was it?
Oh, this is around 86.
Very well.
I'm saying that I'm the first assembly member for Dansuman. So all the schools that you see in Dansuman flourishing were through the effort of the assembly members' effort. And because when I called people, are you following what I'm saying? When I called people, they responded to me as an assembly member, not as an MP. For now today, if an MP goes to the constituency, he sits in the constituency office. All his outreach is at the constituency office.
If he has one.
No, if he has one. That is, even if he has one. But if he has one, he'll be sitting at the MPP office.
Now,
there are other reasons.
Yeah, sure. I know you want to, but I'll put this to you. We are where we are, or how do you think that we got here? That we have this polarity, in which if somebody wins a party from Party A, then the one from Party B is excluded, and the one from Party B may even be somebody or whose party just went out of office. If you look at the anthropological or the socio-cultural inferences, how did we get here? To now make conclusions that, oh, because there's so much polarity at the top.
Polarity in politics has been with us since 1951, when this country went through election for the first time.
You mean through the winner takes all attitude?
Yeah, I'm building up. We went through 54, 56, and post-independence, we have seen division and all that. Some of this thing has been played into the fore by politicians, playing the ethnic card, dividing us, using all manner of means to get power. But that we have to know, that in politics is who gets what, when and how, as Harold Lanswell will say. So how you get power, all right, sometimes that really matter, all right? And if you look at all these things, they do happen. They come to bear on the situation. But put that one aside, you realize that over the years, this country has made conscious effort to deal with these problems, all right? Tension, divisions in the political parties, and then for the general political system. We have been making frantic efforts to deal with these things very well. Yes, so my worry is that if we want to use that as a case against we electing our people at the grassroots, then I have a problem.
Why not?
Yeah, the problem, the advantage here is that, look, when you look at smaller parties in this election, right, studies have shown that very few of them are able to have national character, and even there, during elections, you realize that their performance are highly insignificant. This is opportunity for political parties who are smaller in nature to be able to gain their ground. Take, for instance, the PNC. Over the years, if you've seen performance of the PNC, North, they've done so well. So one would have thought that if you have such a system, in the places where PNC and other parties have their strongholds, they'll be able to fill the candidate, win election, and have their rep in parliament and represent them. Remember, at the local level, we are saying that it's the wearer of a shoe who knows where it pinches. And the people love such people to represent them the more at that area. Why is it? More so, let me come in. Most of you realize that we are also looking at the overarching powers of the president, that he wields a lot of powers, and that there should be a conscious effort to reduce the powers of the president. This is one. If you allow elections to be done at the national level alone, remember the DCM, MNDCs and all that, you see the president appointing. It's one of the same political parties which are happening in that area.
Okay.
And the president alone has that power.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
The structure of the various MMDAs we have,
yes,
they're almost like quasi-constituencies, because even in some of them, we have two constituencies embedded in one.
Sure.
Okay. So if we have the two parties dominating, in reality, there's no room for the smaller parties, because it's just a bigger scale.
Yeah, but you realize that
how can the PNC, for example, win in an MMDA when even for a constituency which is even smaller, they are not able to win?
It will surprise you that when you get to that fine detail, you see smaller parties performing. Sometimes not even parties.
Then why are they not able to perform at the...
No, at the national, when you aggregate the figure, you realize that they don't mean much. But I tell you, when you go to constituencies, districts and all that, you see the strength of political party. And more so, you have independent candidates. We have seen time again where people have rejected two main parties, giant parties, and gone for independent candidates. They tell you that, hey, there is a message that the state is not listening to, that they are individuals, that they think that they have what it takes to be able to represent them.
Based on his argument, there are only few independent candidates actually in the Fourth Republic have been able to win. And even then, we've had now the political parties bringing them to order, bringing their membership to order. So the MPP and the NDC now have it stringently. If you decide to break ranks, it means that you don't get the opportunity to contest until 4 years.
Well, before I make my point, he's a professor of political science, and I don't want to contradict him. But
you can. It's a debate.
But the point is that the argument he's advancing reverses his position. You know what? There are problems at the national level. We have not resolved it. He says as a country, we are trying to find solutions to that. But the recent one, just recent election that we had was at Ayawaso. And you all saw what happened at Ayawaso.
No, just that's an isolated incident. We've had Treponi, etc. But those are isolated incidents.
Add Treponi, Ayawaso, and the rest. Look at the way MPs canvass. I mean, the cost of getting the power.
Okay.
The cost of getting the power itself is like going to Abosokai and there's a brand new crutch disc. You say, no, I want the second-hand crutch disc that has been removed from a car in Germany to be fixed on my car. There's a problem with the national level. We have not been able to resolve it. It's getting worse. Then we want to now transport this to the district level assemblies. The second thing is that we should not confuse the two issues at stake. One is for the election of MMDCs. The MMDC's argument go for the president trying to cede part of his power. That is the way they put it. But the other one is trying to de-entrench the Article 55.3, which says that political parties should be allowed to field candidates at the local level election. So we should not confuse the two. Now, I am saying that, sir, the unity that is enjoyed at assembly level, Chief will understand that there are some communities which is a predominantly MPP or NDC community, but the assembly member is nobody. He doesn't belong to MPP, or even if he belongs to the NDC or MPP, he contested on his own. Now, let us look at what is developing, unfortunately, in the National House of Chiefs. The National House of Chiefs. We deliberately said chiefs should not be participating in party political activities for good reasons too. Because our traditions and values put the chiefs as the spirit over all.
And they've not been participating.
They have not been participating, but I want to tell you what the development is. You understand? But the chief is able, the traditional councils, nominate persons to the district assemblies. They do. And then there are some bureaucrats, like chief, if he's not a politician, but he comes from a community, and they need his services. Even though he's not a politician, he's a bureaucrat. by the Constitution, he's not supposed to do politics. As a civil servant, he's not supposed to do politics. By the arrangement of the district assembly, he's able to go to the assembly to participate. So what you're going to do is that once there are limitations to participation at the district assembly, and you politicize it, it means that civil servants who would have otherwise been useful to the assemblies are going to be cut off.
How's that possible?
How is that possible? Because if you go to the assembly, you are let's say the chief director in a ministry. You can go to your district assembly as a government appointee or somebody to give your expertise to the assembly. Now, when the assemblies are politicized, how do you go there?
It's the same by the same appointment.
What is the same appointment? Is that?
By government secondary, they are appointing you there.
Chief, it's not as easy as that. Now, the second thing that I was talking about, the development in the National House of Chiefs. If you remember recently, the National House of Chiefs, a letter signed by the president and his vice president, has been denounced by 2 other chiefs. And if you read the communications...
2 other prominent members.
Members. If you read the communication...
There's been another communication.
I'm coming. The words used in the communications are not good enough. Very unfortunate communication. Dishonest, this and that and that. So, see, this small referendum, see what it's doing to the chiefs, our institutional chieftaincy.
Well, they are giving their opinion on this.
No.
It's a democratic institution.
It is showing that it is possible, that this would now, when they go to the National House of Chiefs, they are going to have NPP chiefs and NDC chiefs. That is a danger.
Are you saying that, do you see the current debate ongoing as being a debate across the political divides in which we have one and the other, government and the opposition? Is that how it's turning out to be?
For me, I don't look at it from that perspective. All that I'm saying, let me just draw the attention of my good friend here to the issue about the politicization of the assembly. All right? Are we saying that if we don't allow DCs and all that to be elected?
No, not DCs.
No. We don't do the politics, the party politics thing at the grassroots level. That's going to solve the problem that we are dealing with. No. There are problems at the top, there are problems at district assemblies and all the grassroots. All that we are saying that, look, I also ask myself, are we interested in political parties?
Yes, we are. We've given them so much room, such that the one that gets to win, the head of the executive, has overarching powers for which is being criticized.
And that is why this process is going to help us. All right.
It's rather going to consolidate. That's what they.
It's going to help us.
The no debaters say.
I believe strongly that if we have such election and we have it at the grassroots, you will see all manner of people coming up out of politics, out of elections, coming to serve the interests of the people. Honorable said that sometimes you don't even have those with expertise to go there and support. Parliament, what do we see? Parliament issue a memorandum that if you have knowledge and you're looking at a bill and all that, come and add your input. People have been contributing over the years to help building the input of Parliament to be able to do a good job, right? What would that, it's not going to be different from what we see at the grassroots. So for me, I believe that allowing party politics to also feature at the grassroots is the best to be able to represent the democracy at all frontiers of the country. At the national level, you want parties to represent, and at the grassroots, you don't want party. What kind of a system is that?
How do we look at these nuances in which currently primaries are organized? A lot of money we know is spent. There's been comprehensive research that has been done, published, not only, even by your department as well, by the CDD as well, indicating enormous amount of money that is spent. Averagely, for somebody going through the primaries, if you want to become a parliamentary candidate elect, even not talk about the ones that get to lose the election. So we're going to have primaries by the political parties, and they are going to determine a number of people who will be put at the front line to be elected as the candidate for a political party to contest an MMDA position. That deepens the process of vote buying.
Yeah. Are you also saying
perceived corruption?
Yes. Are you also saying that at the assembly elections and all that, monies do not change hands? Party politics, take it or leave it. There is always a money influence. But what has the state done to address that problem? Okay. Are you with me? Yes. And I'm saying that if you run away from that, saying that it doesn't happen at the grassroots, then for me, it's not true. It is there. Political parties go on the ground, support individuals to win their seat, all that. They pump money there. Except that because it is not politically done, that you don't see.
That is why we've not seen the acrimony that is usually associated
with. But it doesn't mean that they don't pump money there. You don't see the process. But here at the national level, it's almost, out there, you see. So all that we are saying that, look, let us have that process, and so that we have what is at the national is also at the grassroots. Then we can, whatever problem it is, we address it. But remember, you are not going to have at the grassroots, whatever politics that take place, you are saying that there is not going to be money influence. That is not true. It is there, except that you don't see it because the parties are not allowed to participate there. It doesn't mean that the problem doesn't exist there.
When I was contesting for assembly member, and even up to date, the platforms that we used were not created by us. The Electoral Commission and NCCE created a platform free of charge, and many things were done. What needs to be done by the two of us is to make sure that we enforce the rules and be disciplined enough. The law says that don't do it. Don't do it. Don't participate in this assembly election. That is the law. Why is it that we are not seeking to enforce the law, but rather saying that, because it is happening, and so we should...
But the parties don't do it publicly.
Please wait. So, yes. The rule is that don't be caught. The rule is that don't be caught. But you see, I have seen chiefs in various villages that have risen up to say, no, don't come and do your party politics here. But I am saying that the cost of assemblyman contesting is far cheaper if we have the discipline of political parties not believing that buying power is all there is to it in this country. Are you following what I'm saying?
I am.
Buying power is not all we need in this country. Politics is not all that we live for. At least leave my assembly member to be able to organize my communal labor. Leave my assemblyman to take the woman who is having a problem with childbirth to carry her to the hospital. Leave my assembly member that way. That is the role of the local government assembly member. Again, who says that democracy that we are practicing cannot be practiced alongside our traditional governance? Before the white man came and introduced democracy the way we are practicing it, what was happening in this country? We had our own rules. And those of us who are so fixated to Western democracy, look at what is happening in Britain. Look at what is happening to the big democracies. We are seeing something right in our faces, that it is breeding corruption. It is dividing this country into two. Now today, you must be an MPP journalist or NDC journalist. You must be an MPP professor or NDC professor. Is that what you're going to introduce at the grassroots? No, we don't have to do that, because you see, it takes away the purpose of local governance. It takes it away. What we need to do, the two of us have to do, is to make sure that anytime we see a politician or a group of politicians trying to influence this assembly elections, we let the law take its course on him. Rather than saying that, because you are doing it, let us legitimize it. Armed robbery is, people are doing armed robbery, don't they? People do armed robbery. Are we saying that because people are armed robbers, we should legalize armed robbery in this country? Is that what we are saying? Now look at the structure, even the current parliament. Because of the division, the majority.
Rubber stamp.
No, I'm not using that word. Look at the majority. Every bill that comes to parliament, whether it's right or wrong, must be passed. And several agreements have been passed. When you read it afterwards, you say that, if these people are taking a second look at that, The MPs will say, well, we had our say, and they had their, what? We had vote, and they had their say. Do we want to have this dominant political party? If we have this district assembly, you know what is going to happen? The dominant political party will have majority of the assembly members as NDC or MPP.
And even the head of the assembly.
Head of the assembly, politics. Then, after that, we take it to national. If you don't take care, in 5 years of practicing this, we may be ending blindly towards one-party state in this country.
Okay. Mr. Sunset, while you contribute to that, let's look at if we vote yes.
Yeah.
On political party lines.
Yeah.
And then if we vote no. Let's start with yes. Or let's start with no. So it means that anybody who is not affiliated to a political party or is deemed not to be affiliated to a political party could stand up, give himself up or herself up to be elected. That person, in a way, in the normal man's eye, is a neutral, is able to navigate all the top parties that we have within a certain jurisdiction of an NMDA. What do you think?
Is it wrong for people to go into elections where electorates will ignore party reps and pick an independent candidate? Is it wrong? You are seeing the beauty of what?
Oh, the beauty of that.
Democracy. I am saying that what we are doing, what I'm arguing for, is that you are not only going to have the parties reps winning elections at the grassroots, but sometimes you have independent candidates also coming in.
How many independents in this Fourth Republic have been able to canvass enough votes to be able to win?
When you are talking about the grassroots, a constituency, a district, the story is different. If you are looking at national, you may not have the numbers that you are talking about. But at the grassroots level, you are likely to have individuals that the people say that this is our rep. And for me, that is a better option.
Sure.
Look, that is a better option.
You are defeating your own.
No, I'm not defeating. I'm not defeating it. You will get admixture of these issues that you have parties winning, all right, at the local level. You will have individuals winning at the local level. You will have smaller parties also winning at the local level.
What are their chances of winning? You even have been collating figures across all the constituencies we have. How many independent candidates have been able to win constituency seats?
Have you checked some of the parties, their strength in certain constituencies? You realize that they have something to show. I am saying that some of these things, the problem that we are running away from a problem, which I'm so surprised, that, at the top, there's acrimony, there is this, there is that. Look, this country failed to, look at funding of political parties, all right? So we're giving to this problem that people fund parties, and at the end of the day, people win power, and those who funded the parties come and say, well, look, let us...
So we're just going to deepen it further?
No, I am saying that no matter the system you have at the local level, you are still going to have problems, but don't run away from a problem. But all that we are saying that let us have parties. What I have told you, you are going to have political parties winning at the local level. You are going to have independent candidates winning at the local. You are going to.
I've asked you, you've not been able to convince me. How many independent candidates, individuals who have stood on self-tickets, being able to defeat established candidates of established political parties?
Another benefit.
Where they can draw from funding from various sources.
Even if you get one, we are making serious progress. But another benefit is that...
Then it defeats your argument, doesn't it?
It doesn't. We are going to have, as at now, all right, we don't have the parties in there, all right, but the parties are hiding and also influencing people to get there.
But there are many individuals who also necessarily are able to navigate between all residents in their areas, as well as even in certain MMDAs, because they are just liked and not physically and publicly seen to be aligned to any political party. And that is why they are able to inure themselves to the likeness of many people.
Chief, if you have a team, and we say this team should be made up of all local players, okay, and then somebody says, oh, I have a player in Togo, He speaks ever. So we consider that one, and he becomes a player. Then on and on and on and on, we bring Naomi, Benin, and bring Ivory Coast. In 5 years, would it be a national team of locals? Would it be that? We have a beautiful system, like he said, where individuals, the majority of them are almost all of them are individuals who campaign on their own strengths to become assembly members. And therefore, the assembly, the local community people see him as their servant. Okay? Now you want to bring in a political party who says that this is our man. And therefore, they apply the party whip. They apply the party whip. Apart from the cause of it, the party whip system is going to be applied in such a way that the community will lose ownership and control of the assembly member, because now he belongs to the political party instead of the community. That new assembly member belong to the political party instead of the assembly. Not assembly, even the community. In my village, when the assemblyman calls a meeting, the assemblyman is perceived to be an MPP person, my village. But because he's an assemblyman, and we are going to discuss the problem of the community as a whole, we all go. Are you following me? But when the MP of my constituency come to my village and calls us, it's only the MPP people that goes. Is that what you want to perpetuate?
No, but that is not true. That is not true.
Oh, no, Prof. You may say I'm not properly informed, but that is true. I won't sit on television and tell a lie. It's the truth.
Doc, are you saying that's not true?
It is the MP has an important role to perform at the constituency. It's a link between his people and Parliament. They hold Daba. Are you saying that when they hold Daba, the Dabas that they hold?
But we'll see
hold on. The
Dabas that are supposed to be non-partisan Dabas that turn out to be having NDC and MPP paraphernalia.
I've told you about my village.
It is not
my village. My villagers are looking at me. No,
they are looking at you.
My villagers are looking at me.
You mean residents in your home
community?
Village?
Yes, they are looking at me. And then last week Sunday, the assembly member called all of us. That's the reason why I traveled from Accra to the place, because we are thinking about our pipe-borne water. There was a construction, and then it's been bust. So we are trying.
So you funded it?
No, we all contributed to fund it. You understand? But when the MP comes, if chief is minded to go,
you are saying he only gets one side of the political divide.
He means his political party organizers, and that's nothing more. The constituency office of the MPP in Accra here, which of them entertains NDC people?
Honorable, just one thing I want
now let's go to the stream. We have streaming into the studio Dr. Kujo Asante. He's the Director of Policy Research, Center for Democratic Development, Ghana. Good morning to you. You've been listening to the debate. Now, if we go to the inception of all this argument, was there a deception after all, or it's just that the communication lines were not clear as to what really we were going for or will be going for on December 17?
No, I don't think. Good morning to your viewers. No, I don't think there was any deception of any sort. I think certainly the education started very late. I think if you recall, we are probably talking about September. That's when most of the institutions, both state and non-state actors, began to actually engage the public about what the referendum was about. It was always going to be a little tricky because behind the scenes, of course, the Article 2431 was supposed to have been at least taken before Parliament went on recess after the second term of Parliament. That was not done. So it still got people confused. I think people thought that they were going to elect MMDCs come December 17. So I just think that because the communication started quite late, that's what has brought a lot of the confusion. But I think the debate and the discussion is going to help clarify for people what exactly they are going to go and do on December 17.
Now, Dr. Asante, from your own submission, or that's the submission you made, which seems to be your own observation, it looks like if you go down there and you look at a cursory sum of what the aggregated views are, really, people don't want that, the political parties to participate at that level.
Well, I'm a researcher. I don't rely on anecdotes. I always like, I think people forget that a referendum is not to confirm a particular choice of a government. You are giving the people a choice to make. So a no vote is still a verdict. Just like when you go into any election, one person will win and one person will lose. So the referendum is the same thing. The question is yes or no. If yes wins, that is a verdict. If no wins, that is a verdict. And that is a very important step that we have to take, so that at least from a policy perspective, it's also very clear that this matter has been thrown to the people, and this is what the people have decided. If we decide that based on the conversation and the nature of the conversation, there's already a verdict, then there's really no need to be able to go to have a referendum anyway on any matter. You can just put it on social media, put it on the media, and see what people's reaction and decide. So I think it's fundamental that we allow people to exercise their franchise on these matters.
What's your own view on the subject? If it's also a view of the CDD, Ghana, all the better. You think political parties should participate fully?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, we at CDD, we've always held that view. I think that it's a design issue that you have to consider. The idea that you can have some semblance of multi-party at the national level and create an artificial non-party process at the local level, for me, creates very serious accountability problems, because the reality is that parties are decentralized right down to the polling station level. That is even lower than electoral areas. And there's no way a party that is set up to compete for power will sit down whilst there's contestation for power at local level and will not do anything. So it's an interesting experiment if the decision is no. As the parties very much involved, yes, everybody in the village knows that this person is MPP and that person is NDC. Whether or not when you make it official changes the way the public looks at them or individuals look at them, it's an interesting experiment. But whichever way we go, we have maintained that there are significant consequential amendments and reforms that have to go with local government reform. So if you keep it at no, you have to find a way in which you create a lot more enthusiasm for local people to take an interest in local government and hold their leaders accountable. So in both ways, there is a lot of work for us to do. But I think that let December 17th come, let us have a verdict. And we should remember that we are not just, now that the conversation is all about referendum, but we are also going for local government elections. So everybody should still remember that if indeed, as we are all saying, we care about local governance, then we should take an interest in who becomes our assembly member, who becomes our assemblywoman, who becomes our unit committee, because it's at that level that they can impact our lives on a day-to-day basis. So we should take this opportunity with all the contestations we are having to make an affirmation that we want to improve our local government system. We want to take an interest in it and make it work.
Well, so does it mean at this point in time, if we have a no vote, it could have effect on accountability, commitment of the executive to the development, etc., of the various jurisdictions for which we have the MMDCs?
Well, for starters, I think both parties have made it very clear that they support the amendment of Article 2431, which is currently before Parliament. I think without delay, that amendment should be passed this week, because there's been a lot of discussion on it. It is just to remove the president's appointment powers so that MMDCs can be elected. That is a simple matter. Whether or not that is on partisan basis, that's a matter that comes December 17th, we can decide. But at least everybody agrees that we should elect MMDCs. So I think we should go ahead and do that. Now, come December 17th, if we decide that it is a no vote, then we are retaining the non-partisanship at district assembly level. It means MMDCs as well will be elected on a non-partisan basis. Now we have to then look at the structure. Okay, if we don't want partisanship there, what mechanism, how are you going to police the system? How are you going to make the process of campaigning and so on, you know, if, for example, people talk about monetization, if you want to you have public funding for that process, how are you going to do that? If you want to do continue the platform mounting, how can you do that creditably? How do you empower the assemblies? So, for example, the standing orders of the assemblies have to be improved significantly if the assembly is going to be able to hold the executive, the new elected mayor, accountable at the assembly level. So, as I said, whichever decision you get, there are several consequential legislation that have to be effected, and then there are also reform agendas that we have to pursue. Now, of course, we have some time to deal with all of that, regardless of which side it goes. So it's just to say that yes or no, there's still a lot of work to be done. Even for example, advocating for us to transfer more resources to local level. If we're going to make local government meaningful, we definitely have to be pushing for more than the 6% or the 6.5% that, or 5% that has to go to the local government level. We should be thinking about 10%, 15%.
And more.
So these are the matters for us. This is something that we watch constantly and observe, and we want to be looking 10 years down the line to make sure that we get the best out of our local government.
Well, thank you very much. Dr. Kudjo Asante, Director of Policy Research Center for Democratic Development Ghana, CDD Ghana, helping us. Unfortunately, I can't take last comments on the subject. Okay.
No,
I give you only a minute.
Dr. Asante talked about accountability. The current assembly member is accountable to the community. The new structure, he'll be accountable to the political party at the local level.
And that's problematic for him.
Serious problem.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just a minute.
I differ. The current structure, if you pursue it, you are going to have accountability. Remember, when people vote people into, they are answerable to the people. All right, so it's not a political party. You are answerable. If you don't do the bidding of the people, they throw you out the next election, and that's.
If it's a dominant area of MPP or NDC, you have no choice. No, any chicken or egg they put there.
How many ministers in this country, NDC MPP, have not misconducted themselves, but we have a party to cover them.
Mr. Sampi Yalley, thank you very much. Former High Commissioner of Ghana to India, and then also a legal practitioner helping us do the discussions. Dr. Kwame Asante is a senior lecturer, the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana. I tell you, the debate is still ongoing. And we'll see how it goes and how Parliament also moves forward. But we'll tell you about what Newmont is doing, and they're hosting the National Mine Safety and First Aid Competition. We'll tell you about all that next. Stay with us.
So we like them.